The flashlight blinded me before the siren even died. I kept both hands on the wheel, fingers stiff, heart steady, license and registration. The officer barked, his voice sharp like glass. "If you even own the car?" My jaw tightened. I could feel the eyes of two people on the sidewalk. They slowed, watched, then turned away like I was contagious. I swallowed. "I'll hand them to you," I murmured, my throat dry, "when you stop spitting in my face with your words." He leaned closer, flashlight shaking in his hand. "What did you just say to me?" I looked past the glare into the outline of his smirk. There it was again, the smirk that told me I wasn't a man, just a target. "You heard me." The silence stretched. A couple kept walking, faster now, heads bowed. Their silence stung sharper than his tone. Silence is never neutral. It bends always toward the bully. The officer snapped his fingers. "Step out of the vehicle, now." My chest tightened, but I didn't move. Why? Broken taillight? Expired tags? Or just the color of my skin? His laugh was short, cruel. "Smart mouth, huh? Figures, you people always got something to say?" Car rolled by. The driver glanced, then pretended his radio was too loud to notice. I caught his eyes for half a second. He looked away, ashamed. They always look away. The officer slapped the hood of my car. "Out, don't make me drag you." I unclenched my fingers from the wheel. My palms were damp. I pushed the door open slowly, deliberately, refusing to look small. He circled me like a Wolf-sizing prey. "Nice ride. Where'd you steal it from?" I turned my head toward him. "Why is it easier for you to imagine me a thief than a man who worked for it?" His grin widened. "Because I know what I see, and what he saw wasn't me. Not the years, not the robes, not the courtroom. Just skin. Just a silhouette to belittle." A man across the street lifted his phone, recording. Finally, his voice wavered as he whispered to the woman beside him, "This is gonna go bad." I let out a breath. "It already has." The officer shoved his flashlight under my chin. "Answer me straight. Drugs in the trunk? Guns? Be honest, boy." The words sliced. My throat burned, but my voice stayed even. "I am being honest. What's in my trunk? Groceries, milk, bread, eggs. Nothing you can use to justify your hate." He chuckled, shaking his head. "They all play innocent." "They?" I whispered, almost laughing at the absurdity. "That's all you see. They, never a man, never a father, never a name." The couple from before had stopped down the block. They stared, whispered to each other, then shook their heads like nothing could be done. I raised my voice, my words sharp as glass. "Don't just walk away. You see this, you hear this. And your silence makes you part of it." The officer jabbed a finger into my chest. "You keep talking and you'll regret it." I leaned closer, letting him see the steadiness in my eyes. "No, the only thing I regret is how long I let men like you think your words define me." He flinched, just for a second. Then his jaw clenched tighter. The bystander's phone camera caught the stillness. A cop with his finger on my chest. A man standing unbowed. Inside, my stomach twisted. My pulse hammered in my ears. Fear coiled deep, but dignity held me upright. That was the night I decided. Their comfort ends where my dignity begins. The officer circled me with slow steps, his flashlight dragging along the paint of my car, like he was marking his territory. "Where'd you steal this car from?" He sneered, lips curling. My jaw flexed. "Why is it easier for you to imagine me a thief than a man who worked for it?" He chuckled, low and cruel. "Worked for it? Please, you expect me to believe that? Men like you don't drive machines like this unless they're hot-wired." His words slithered under my skin, and a bitter taste rose in my throat. I'd heard this voice before, in classrooms where teachers assumed I cheated, in courtrooms where lawyers tried to strip me of credibility, in boardrooms where colleagues smirked at my promotion. Always the same voice. Different faces, same venom. He bent closer, fake sympathy dripping. "Or maybe some rich woman gave it to you? I know your type. Smile nice, talk smooth, play the pet until you get the keys." My chest tightened, heat rising, but I clenched my fists until my nails dug deep into my palms. "Your imagination says more about you than it does about me." He laughed louder this time, switching into a mocking accent, exaggerating every word. Yes, sir, boss, Shaw worked hard for this car. The laughter cracked something deep inside me. My teeth ground together, but I forced my voice out steady, low. That's not funny. Oh, it is, he snapped, rocking back on his heels. It's hilarious that you think you belong behind. The wheel of this, belong. That word scraped against old scars. I was 15 again, standing in a store, accused of stealing gum I never touched. 22, pulled aside at an airport, my suitcase torn apart in front of strangers. 35, denied entry into a country club until I pulled out the invitation with my name. Belonging had always been conditional. He leaned against the car, arms crossed. Bet you're leasing it, huh? Maxed out a credit card or two. Flashy rims, empty wallet. I exhaled sharply. I don't need to prove a damn thing to you. He tilted his head, grin widening. And why do you sound so defensive? My throat tightened. His trap was simple. Silence made me guilty, defiance made me hostile. No right answer. That was always the point. A voice from across the street drifted over, a man murmuring, "Just leave him alone, man." But his tone was soft, too soft. The words floated away like smoke. He wouldn't step closer. The officer's eyes glinted as he heard it. See? Even they think you're trouble. I stared at the pavement, then back up at him. No, they're just scared of you. Same way. You're scared of me. His laugh faltered for half a beat before he spat back. Scared? Of you? Don't flatter yourself. But his hand twitched near his holster, and the flashlight beam wavered against my chest. My stomach churned at the sight. He wanted me small, rattled, begging. He wanted my silence to be his proof. I drew in a deep breath, my voice trembling but firm. I know what you see when you look at me. A shadow, a headline, a body that won't fit in your neat little box. But what you don't see, I paused, swallowing the anger rising in my throat. What you don't see is the man who refuses to kneel to your picture of me. For a moment his smirk faltered. Then he barked a laugh, louder this time, filling the night. You think words are gonna save you? He shook his head, still chuckling. Keep talking. The more you talk, the deeper your hole gets. My chest ached, but I held his gaze. No, the more I talk, the deeper your reflection cuts you. He stepped in closer, his breath sharp against my face. Careful, boy. That word again. It slashed across my ears, the echo of every humiliation I'd buried. I clenched my jaw, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Not yet, I told myself. Not now. Wait, let him keep digging his own grave. My moment will come. The crowd on the sidewalk shifted, phones glowing faintly in the dark. Whispers rippled, but no one spoke up loud enough to matter. Their silence wrapped around me like a second set of chains. I straightened my back, refusing to bend. You think you're mocking me? I whispered, steady now. But the whole time, you're mocking yourself. His eyes narrowed, his grin thinning into something uglier. The night hung heavy, the streetlights buzzing above. My dignity and his spite collided in the silence between us, and I knew the storm hadn't even started yet. The sidewalk swelled with shadows. I felt the weight of dozens of eyes pressing into my skin, heavier than the officer's glare. Phones rose like torches, their cold glow burning into my chest. The officer smirked. See that? They're here for the show. You're their evening entertainment? My stomach tightened. Entertainment, my humiliation. Their pastime. You're watching a man stripped of dignity, I snapped, voice cracking louder than I meant. But your silence is the thief. A woman's whisper drifted through the dark. Don't get involved. It's not our fight. Her words cut sharper than his taunts. Not our fight? I'd heard it before in courtrooms where colleagues averted their eyes, in churches where sermons skipped over injustice, in friendships that crumbled when the cost of standing beside me grew too high. I locked my gaze on the crowd. You think silence will shield you? You think recording this with your phones is enough? When they come for you, no one will speak then either, and you'll remember this night. Someone in the back muttered, "He's right," but the words dissolved. Into the cold air, swallowed by fear, the officer chuckled, stepping closer. See? Nobody cares. Just you and me right here. That's the truth. I felt my hands trembling, nails still biting into my palms. Truth? No, this isn't truth, it's theater. You play the villain, they play the silent crowd, and I exhaled sharply, heat in my throat. I refuse to play the victim, his jaw tightened. Victim is exactly what you'll be if you keep pushing. I stared into his eyes, unblinking. No, victim is what you need me to be, and I won't hand you that victory. The crowd shifted, murmurs crawling along the edges like insects. Just keep your head down. Don't make it worse. He should have just done what he was told. Each whisper stabbed deeper. Then his insults. Their fear, their cowardice, their complicity, they all wrapped around my chest like barbed wire. Listen to them, the officer muttered, grinning wide. They know better than you. They know you're nothing but trouble. I clenched my fists harder. Nothing but trouble. Always that word. Trouble at the airport. Trouble in the store. Trouble in my own neighborhood. Trouble, because trouble had my face. I turned back to the crowd, my voice steady now. If you think silence keeps you safe, you're wrong. Silence is a leash. And tonight you're holding it tight around your own necks. The officer barked. A laugh trying to drown me out. Big speeches don't mean a damn thing, not here, not now. But his laugh faltered when a few heads in the crowd lowered, shame flickering across their faces. I caught it small, fleeting, but enough. You feel it, don't you? I murmured, staring past him at them. The sting of watching and doing nothing. That shame will haunt you longer than his words ever will. The silence thickened. Even the phones seemed to pause in their hands. He shoved his flashlight against my chest, hard. Keep your eyes on me. Don't you look at them. The metal. Pressed cold against me, but my voice didn't break. Why? Afraid they'll see you for what you are? His nostrils flared, grip tightening. For a second I thought he might swing. My breath caught sharp, but I didn't flinch. Not this time. The crowd's silence is betrayal, his voice is poison. But my words are my only weapon, and I'll use them until they cut deep enough to leave scars. I straightened my back, shoulders aching but firm. This ends one of two ways, officer. Either your voice breaks or their silence does. The night held its breath. Phones hovered, whispers stalled. His hand twitched against the flashlight. I felt the cliff's edge beneath my feet, and I knew the next step would decide everything. The officer's hand hovered near his belt, fingers grazing the cold steel like it was an extension of his rage. His smirk curved into something sharper. One. Wrong move, he muttered, voice low but meant for every ear on that street. And I'll end your night, maybe your life. My breath caught, but I didn't let him hear the fear rattling inside me. His words were meant to shrink me, to coil me into silence. I forced my shoulders steady. You think the gun gives you power? I whispered, my throat burning. But the badge on your chest is smaller than the fear in your eyes. For a split second, his face froze, stunned by the mirror I held up to him. Then anger returned, hotter, heavier. His jaw locked and his grip on the cuffs twitched like a muscle. Spasm, you want to play tough? He snapped. Let's see how tough you sound with cold steel around your wrists. The click of the handcuffs opening pierced the night. That sound I'd heard it in courtrooms before, echoing like a verdict, sealing fates I couldn't overturn. Now it came from me. You mistake restraint for weakness? I murmured, staring straight into his eyes. But that's the thing about bullies, they tremble when dignity doesn't bow. He barked a laugh, too loud, too forced. You call this dignity? Standing here while I decide if you walk home or crawl into a cell? My pulse thudded, but I let silence answer him first. Silence long enough for the crowd to feel the weight between us. Then I leaned in, voice steady, almost soft. Dignity isn't decided by you. You can bruise my wrists, you can smear my name, but you can't erase what I've built. That's what frightens you, isn't it? His nostrils flared. You think I'm afraid of you? I caught the flicker in his eyes just for an instant. A tremor he couldn't hide. Yes, I whispered. Afraid of what you can't break? The metal cuffs clinked in his hand. He lifted them higher, close to my face. You're running. Your mouth close to obstruction. Keep talking and you'll find out what that charge feels like. My chest tightened, memory flooding classrooms where my hand was raised but my voice dismissed, courtrooms where I defended men who never believed I belonged in the robe I wore. Always told to be quiet. Always told silence was survival, but silence tonight would be surrender. You don't want justice, I muttered, the words heavier than the cuffs. You want obedience. But I've obeyed enough walls, enough whispers, enough nights like this. Not anymore. His grip twitched. For a moment, I thought he'd snap the cuffs shut around my wrist just to silence me. The crowd rustled. Uneasy, whispers threading through. The night. Is he really gonna cuff him? Why doesn't the guy just comply? God, this could go bad fast. I turned toward them, voice rising despite the knot in my throat. You see this? The threat is the weapon. The silence is the accomplice, and the fear his fear is the truth. The officer's cheeks flushed red under the glow of phones. He snapped, "Shut your mouth before I shut it for you." I steadied. My voice, though my insides trembled. Try, and you'll only prove me right. The cuffs rattled in his hands, impatient, hungry for wrists. He stepped closer, the heat of his anger pressing against me, but I didn't step back. Not an inch, because if I moved even once, I'd give him the victory he craved. And I wouldn't feed. His fear with my retreat, the cuffs gleamed like chains of history, the weight of centuries hanging open in his hand. But history only repeats when we bow to it. I lifted my chin, my voice steady as stone. You want to cage me? Do it, but know this, you'll cage yourself in the same moment. Because everyone here will see not a protector, but a coward clutching. Steel to silence dignity. The air split with his ragged breathing, the clatter of his cuffs stuttering like his pulse. And for the first time tonight I saw doubt in his eyes. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't break, and the night itself seemed to wait, holding its breath for which of us would fall first. The officer's sneer stretched wider, his cuff still dangling from his fist. What are you, some big shot? He mocked, his voice oily, dripping with contempt. The words rolled over me, but I kept my hands still, steady. Inside, my pulse raced. But my silence carved space in the air until every whisper quieted. Then I reached slowly into my jacket, every movement deliberate, my breath tight with the weight of years spent proving worth to men like him. My wallet felt heavy and my hand not leather, but history. I held it out, my voice calm even when my chest ached. Bigger than your prejudice, I murmured. Read the card? He laughed, sharp and hollow, trying to mask the tremor in his throat. What, you think flashing a credit card gets you out of this? Or is this some fake badge you printed in your basement? I didn't flinch. Read the card. The crowd leaned closer, phones rising higher, their lenses hungry for the truth. I watched his hand hesitate before snatching it from me like the plastic might burn him. He turned it over, his grin faltering as his eyes dragged across the words. For a heartbeat, silence wrapped the street. Then gasps cracked the air like glass shattering. He's a judge, a woman whispered, her voice trembling. No way, another muttered. That can't be real. Oh my God, he's really a federal judge. The whispers built into a wave that crashed against the officer's chest. His jaw slackened. He swallowed hard, his bravado thinning like smoke in the wind. This must be fake, he stammered, gripping the card too tightly, his knuckles whitening. You doubt everything that doesn't fit your prejudice, I replied, my words quiet but edged with steel. But the law doesn't bend to your fear, it bends to truth. His eyes darted from me to the crowd, to the glowing screens capturing his unraveling. He tried to force a chuckle, but it came out strangled. Judge? Huh? He muttered, trying to steady his voice. Doesn't change the fact you were resisting. My chest tightened, anger clawing, but I held it steady. Resisting? I whispered, stepping forward just enough for him to hear the conviction in my breath. Resisting is refusing chains that don't belong on me. Resisting is surviving nights exactly like this one. Resisting is dignity. And now, you're resisting the truth in your own hand. His fingers twitched on the wallet. He looked trapped like a child caught with stolen candy. From the crowd, voices rose sharper. You tried to cuff a judge? Man, you're finished. He thought he could humiliate him like nothing. Their words stabbed the silence he once commanded. The power had shifted. I felt it coil around me, fragile but real. I leaned closer, my voice low, steady enough to slice. You wanted obedience. What you got is exposure. Everyone here will remember this moment, not my silence, but your shame. His lips parted, but no sound came. Sweat slicked his forehead as he shoved the wallet back into my chest like it burned. Take your damn card, he muttered. His voice brittle. The weight of it pressed against my palm, heavier than any gavel I'd ever lifted. Not because of what it proved to him, but because of what it meant to me. The crowd hushed, waiting, watching. Every breath felt like a verdict. I tucked the wallet back into my jacket slowly, deliberately. You tried to strip me of my dignity, I whispered, letting each word pierce the air. But dignity doesn't belong to your cuffs, your threats, or your fear. It belongs to me. And tonight it stands. The officer's eyes darted, searching for escape, but the cameras had already sealed his cage, and as the murmurs swelled around me, I knew the silence of the crowd was gone. It had broken, shattered by truth. By exposure, by the weight of a card that carried more than an identity. It carried a reckoning. The night pressed in close, heavy, electric, and I could feel it, something bigger than me rising in that silence, waiting for what would come next. His hands twitched, clutching at the air like he could grab back the authority slipping from him. His voice cracked as he forced out a laugh. That sounded more like a cough. It was just a misunderstanding, he muttered, his gaze darting across the phones pointed at him. A misunderstanding. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. Heat burned up my chest, but my voice came out low, steady. A misunderstanding is forgetting someone's name, I whispered, each word slicing through the night. You didn't forget me. You erased me. The crowd stirred, gasps, overlapping murmurs. The silence he once commanded shattered beyond repair. He swallowed, fumbling with his cuffs before shoving them back into his belt as though hiding the metal could erase what we all saw. You know how it is? He stammered, his laugh hollow, desperate. A lot of pressure, a lot of quick calls. On the street. Anyone could have. I cut him off with a glance sharp enough to still his tongue. Pressure doesn't plant hate in your throat. Pressure doesn't make you spit the word resisting like it justifies your hunger for control. That wasn't pressure. That was choice. His mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish gulping air. He tried to smirk, but the edges of his lips trembled. Hey, come on, he muttered, voice rising a notch too high. We're all human, right? Mistakes happen. Human? My voice cracked under the weight of it. You tried to strip mine away in front of them. I swept my hand toward the crowd, their faces pale, tense, lit by the glow of screens. To you, I wasn't human. I was a body to chain, a voice to silence. No, that's not. He choked on the denial. His hands shook so violently. He shoved them into his pockets as if hiding them could hide his unraveling. The murmurs sharpened into words. He's begging now. He knows he's done. He thought power made him untouchable. Each whisper landed on him like a stone, and I could see it, his shoulders sinking, his spine folding. The bravado that once loomed over me crumbled grain by grain. He tried one last lifeline, his voice trembling. Look, Judge, I didn't mean it. You won't report this, right? I got a family, kids. If this gets out, my stomach twisted. He wanted me to save him from the same system he tried to weaponize against me. You fear losing your uniform, I murmured, my chest heaving. I fear losing my life. That's the difference between us. The words hung heavy, and for the first time, he had nothing to throw back. His eyes darted, looking anywhere but at me, at the crowd, at the cameras. I stepped closer, my voice quieter, sharper. You begged for silence all along, silence from me, silence from them. But silence is finished. You built your power on it, and now it buries you. The crowd erupted, their voices like a tide crashing around him, phones thrust higher. Someone shouted, "Accountability!" Another, "We see you now!" His face, drained of color. His knees wavered like the ground beneath him had given way. He whispered something, maybe prayer, maybe curse, but the sound drowned beneath the weight of the voices swelling around us. I watched him collapse, not with fists, not with violence, but with the truth that carved him hollow. And still, I kept my voice calm, almost tender in its cruelty. "Tonight," I said, my words cutting clear through the noise. "The badge on your chest shrank smaller than the fear in your eyes. And no excuse can cover that." He flinched as though struck. And in that moment I knew the collapse was complete, but the night wasn't done. Not yet. Something heavier still loomed, waiting for me in the silence after his fall. The night air felt heavier than my robe on the bench, pressing against my chest, demanding words I could no longer keep inside. His collapse still echoed at my feet, but my eyes lifted to the crowd, their faces glowing pale in the light of their phones, their silence louder than any gavel I'd ever struck. I raised my voice, steady, sharp. "Your silence gave him power. My words take it back." A ripple ran through them. Someone near the front shifted, their whisper carrying farther than they meant. "We should have spoken up sooner." My throat tightened. I heard my mother's voice in the memory of another crowd, years ago, her whisper to me after walking past the man who spat at us. "Keep your head down. Survive." I had survived. But tonight wasn't about survival. I stepped closer, forcing their eyes to meet mine. "Do you hear it? The weight of your silence? Every time you chose to look away, to shake your head quietly, to record instead of speak, he grew bolder. Every moment you stayed quiet, he believed himself untouchable." Murmurs cracked through the group, guilt sharpening the edges of their words. "He's right. We let it happen." I turned back to the officer. He crouched lower now, his voice weak, crumbling. "Please," he whispered, his lips quivering. "Let's just forget this ever happened." The plea made bile rise in my throat. Forgetting. That word had been the anthem of every wound my skin carried. "No," I snapped, the word burning through me. Forgetting is how injustice survives. I let the silence after hang heavy, pressing into their bones, making sure they felt it. His eyes darted at me, wet with panic. "I'm begging you. And how many begged you?" My voice dropped, my fists curling. "How many voices did you choke into silence because you thought no one would care enough to remember?" The crowd gasped, some lowering their phones. Ashamed, others raising them higher as though memory itself required proof. I inhaled sharply, forcing my chest to still. "You thought my humiliation would be final, that dragging me down would keep me down. But hear me, humiliation is not permanent. Dignity rises louder than your hatred ever could." The words didn't come easy. They ripped through scars, dragged past old bruises, but they came. A man in the crowd muttered, his voice thick, broken. "We were cowards," I nodded once. "Cowardice is a choice. Tonight you have another. Speak, refuse silence. Stand where I stood and say no more, because if you don't, men like him will keep their boots pressed against our throats, waiting for us to swallow our words." The officer groaned, burying his face in his hands. His body shook with shame or fear, I didn't care which. "Look at him," I urged, pointing, my voice carrying across the restless crowd. "Look at how small power becomes when it's stripped of silence. He isn't invincible. He never was. He thrived only because you allowed it." Gasps, murmurs, a woman whispered near tears. "We should have stood up for you, for all of us." I steadied myself, my pulse slowing, my anger shaping into something sharper than rage resolve. "Remember this moment," I said, my tone dropping into a fierce calm. "Don't archive it on your phones, don't reduce it to a clip you'll scroll past tomorrow. Carry it, speak it. Break the silence before it breaks someone else." The officer whimpered something low, desperate, maybe another plea for mercy. I didn't turn toward him. He no longer deserved the weight of my eyes. The crowd's voices swelled, no longer whispers but declarations. No more silence. No more forgetting. My chest loosened for the first time that night. I had stood in chains of his making. Now he knelt in chains of his own collapse, and I knew this wasn't just about him. It was about me reclaiming what he tried to take. My dignity wasn't a gift he could give back. It was mine, always mine, and tonight I had taken it back in front of them all. But as the chants rose, echoing off the stone walls around us, I felt that this reckoning was only the beginning. Something deeper waited in the silence after the crowd's roar. Something heavier still to come. The engine hummed low as I pulled away, headlights cutting through the midnight air. My hands trembled against the wheel, though I gripped it tighter than I needed to. The street was empty now, but I still felt their eyes, the crowd, the officer. The silence that had weighed on me like chains. He wanted me small. Instead, I stood. Taller than his badge, I whispered it into the dark as if saying it aloud would carve it into stone. My chest still burned from the words I had hurled at him, from the truth I had forced into the crowd's ears. Yet underneath the fire, there was something else, an ache that spread from old wounds. The red glow of a traffic light stopped me. My reflection in the windshield stared back, tired, worn, but unbroken. I thought of every courtroom where I had swallowed words to keep order, where I let silence masquerade as dignity. But tonight I had broken that silence open. My mother's face flickered in memory, her quiet warning after a man spit near. U.S. on a bus stop, keep your head down, child. Don't give them a reason. For years I obeyed. I thought survival was victory. Tonight proved I was wrong, I murmured into the stillness. Dignity is not in lowering your head. It's in raising your voice. The light turned green, but I didn't move. My breath caught in my throat as I imagined him again, the professor, hunched, begging me to forget. Forgetting had always been their weapon. Forgetting was erasure. I had refused it. Never again, I whispered, my knuckles whitening on the wheel. Not for me, not for anyone. The car behind me honked, sharp and impatient. I let the sound wash over me, then eased forward slowly, refusing to rush. Tonight had taught me patience, the kind born not of submission, but of resolve. I rolled down the window, the night air rushing in, cool against my burning skin. The city around me was quiet, almost indifferent. Yet I felt the weight of change. Subtle but alive, carried in the whispers of the crowd who had finally spoken. I spoke to the empty road as though it were listening. Power is not theirs to give. It was never theirs, it's in the refusal. The refusal to bow, the refusal to forget. My words echoed back in the cabin, filling it with something stronger than the hum of the engine. Truth, the courthouse clock told in the distance. A deep sound that shivered through the night. Each strike felt like punctuation to a chapter that had needed to be written long before now. I exhaled, long and slow. My body was weary, but my spirit stood unshaken. That night I remembered, power is not in their permission, but in our refusal to bow, and I knew the reckoning was only the beginning.